Before we get on the BET CEO Bob Johnson praise train for him basically in some sort of praise to Donald Trump, there's this video I'm about to play. It's longer, and he actually did praise him for his handling of the Iran situation right now. But this is what I'm about to play. This is from Breitbart. It's going to be... I'm not going to play the whole thing, obviously, because YouTube and their shenanigans. But you'll hear what he says, and it's very interesting. But again, I want to caution everyone who's listening to this video, try not to get on this praise train of Bob Johnson, because once these comments fully engulf his side of the aisle, if you will, they're going to make him walk these comments back. If he doesn't, he's a better man than I thought he'd be. But let's just play it real quick, and I'll comment on it as I deem necessary.
Trump's brinksmanship when it comes to politics. Talk me through a little bit, how do you feel about the economy today and where we're headed? Because a lot of people have been very, very worried, obviously, about this U.S.-China trade spat. The G20 seemed to quiet down some of those fears. Where do you think it's headed?
Well, I think the economy is doing absolutely great. And
uh-oh, Bob Johnson, you just committed a mortal sin in the eyes of the far left. Oof. Let's continue.
It's particularly reaching into populations that heretofore have had very bad problems in terms of jobs, unemployment, and the opportunities that come with full employment. So African American unemployment is at its lowest level, Hispanic unemployment, women. So I give President Trump, and I've said this before on Squawk Box, I give President a lot of credit for moving the economy in.
I wonder what his friends are going to say about this, because he did not once did he say orange man bad. But let's continue.
In a positive direction that's benefiting a large number of Americans. I think the tax cuts clearly help stimulate the economy. I think business people have a little bit more confidence in the way the economy is going, and I think it's beginning to have some impact globally. We still have some issues to deal with the China trade negotiation issues, but overall, if you look at the U.S. economy and you look at the number of people who are no longer looking for jobs, but now sort of seeing the opportunities for job growth, you got to give the president an A+ for that.
Walk me through.
So he said he had to give the president an A+ for his handling of the economy, which I give him more of a A-, if you will, because I don't want to give anyone an A+. But he did praise him for the handling of the economy, without him saying orange man bad, which I give him a lot of credit for. Obviously, this Bob Johnson, Robert Johnson, if you will, or Mr. Johnson, he's a very smart dude. He can get to where he is at by not being smart. But I want to continue on, because I think he said something else about far left politics. So let's continue.
Through what happens next, in your opinion, when it comes to that sort of rhetoric versus the real news, for example. So what we hear coming out of the United States so often to the international community is so much rhetoric between the Democrats and the Republicans. It feels as if nothing's getting done in Washington, but you're saying, hey, listen, what he's doing is working.
Well, that's the problem. I think that, I met President Trump a number of years ago when he was first president-elect. And what I came away from meeting the president, he's got his own style. And a lot of people are not going to like that style. But when he says he's going to try to do something...
So let's explore that, what he just said. He's known for a few years, and he basically stated that Donald Trump has his own style. Now, Robert Johnson is a CEO. He has his own style. Donald Trump, he has his own style. Someone like Jeff Bezos, he has his own style. So I think there's some, from what I can tell, there's a mutual respect, if you will. Maybe that's a little too much. But again, he hasn't gone down the road of saying orange man bad, Donald Trump, the typical BS things that usually people say when they're being interviewed about or questioned about Donald Trump. So I think this is the part where he's going to talk about the far left, or about how far left, the left politics right now in the United States is going.
I think economically, you have to give him credit for taking some specific steps to do that. But overall, if you look at what's going on between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, but it's really President Trump and the Democrats, there's really no.
Yes, I would have to agree with Mr. Johnson here. Donald Trump essentially was a Democrat up until 2015, 2016, 2015, when he came down the escalator and he announced his presidential run. He was a Democrat. And there's many videos out there of Jesse Jackson praising him, Al Sharpton. He was having dinner with the Clintons. He was a Democrat, sort of. But yeah, he was a Democrat. But he wasn't the crazy left-wing collegiate Democrat, if you will. So here's going to get to the interesting part.
Give or take in terms of trying to come to an understanding how best to run the country. And if business people are concerned about anything, it's the clear sort of partisan politics that's become very wicked and very mean.
Yes, partisan politics has become, or it's always been, but its ugly head is has been reared, and is out there dancing around with a clown wig and clown shoes and just making a mess. Usually it's on the left. In my opinion, of course.
And that's not helping the American people, and it's not helping America as a global nation. So to me, I think the issue is, as a long-term Democrat, I think the Democrats need to find a message, and I think President Trump needs to sort of step back a little bit from some of his sort of, a little bit sort of showmanship.
So far, I do not disagree with Mr. Johnson. He seems pretty reasonable. In this short interview, of course, he said that the left needs a message. They don't have a message. I don't even know what their message is. What? Give free stuff to people? That's not a message. That's a ploy. And then I also agree that Donald Trump needs to sort of step back and tamp down his showmanship. But again, Mr. Johnson would probably agree that that's his style, and it's a fair criticism. I have no, so far, why isn't Bob Johnson running for the liberal side of the ticket? He sounds pretty reasonable. Again, in this interview, of course.
But at the end of the day, the American people are looking for somebody who can deliver economically, deliver on opportunities, and focus on what's in the best interest of the country.
And walk me through, when you take a look at the Democratic field today, who's looking good to you? Because you have a long history of the Democratic Party at your fingertips. Who looks good today?
Right now, I'm not taking a position on the Democratic Party. I've long time been a centrist in terms of Democratic politics.
He's a centrist, but he votes left, Democrat. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just I think what you're going to see in his continued comments here is that he's going to explain a little more better than I could. But just hearing him talk right now is that he's seeing the candidates right now. They're insane, and you'll see here in a second.
The party, in my opinion, has moved, for me personally, too far to the left.
And there you have it. A well-reasoned businessman, CEO, just basically stated that the Democrats have moved too far to the left. But has the Republican right, if you will, libertarian, center right, have they moved too far to the right? No, they haven't really moved. They actually moved more, in my opinion, the right side of the aisle has moved more towards the center. And then the left has started to go out to the fringes, and you can't embrace the fringes of any political spectrum, because that's where the crazies are. Because on the right, you get your reactionary anarchists. That's not going to work. And if you're on the left, you move towards far left authoritarianism, such as socialism, communism, perhaps even a theocracy. People always like to state theocracies are far right. No, they're far left if you really think about it, just in their tone and how they get things done. So that's just my opinion, of course. Someone will argue the point that, well, theocracies, they're more conservative. Yeah, but they're also very left and very controlling, and especially very controlling if you don't agree with what they state.
And for that reason, I don't have a candidate in this particular in the party at this time. I think at the end of the day, if a Democrat is going to beat Trump, that person, he or she, is going to have to move to the center.
Right. So usually, how these presidential nominations work is that, depending on if you're left or right, you sort of touch onto the far left. It's kind of weird because even in 2016, even Hillary Clinton didn't embrace the far left. Not really. She might have, courted them, if you will. She might have dog whistled. I hate that word, but she might have dog whistled them. But she didn't really embrace them, if you will. And neither did Donald Trump. He didn't embrace the far right. There is no... Anyways, so what he's saying here is that how it usually goes during these nominations is that you sort of court the center. You sort of try to bring those people, because there's a lot more people in the center than there are on the far left or the right, or far right, if you will. There's more people in the center. And you have to get those people out to the polls and vote. And you have to sort of give them a message. And what is the message that the far leftists on the Democratic side are giving? I don't know. No idea. But let's continue.
And you can't wait too long to do that because the message of some of the programs that the Democrats are pushing are not resonating with the majority of the American people. It's really working for the party for the primary.
Exactly. So what are they pushing? Gay reparations? Slavery reparations? Free college? But the leftists don't explain how they will pay for it. Because if you do slavery reparations, you're going to have to take money from people that had nothing to do with it. You're going to have to tax. You're going to have to. So let's just keep that in mind.
Primaries. But if you're going to win a general election against President Trump, who has a lockdown hit his base, and everybody's going to contest for the middle and the independents, you can't be too far left in that process.
Exactly. Now, what I suspect is going to happen, let's say Biden gets in for the Democrats. He can't keep embracing the far left as he is right now. Once he gets the nomination, he has to pull the independents, like Mr. Johnson said, and the centrists, and the middle of the road people. He's got to pull them to their side with whatever. But the damage is already done. The notion or the idea of reparations, if you will, whatever connotation that takes, it's already out there. It's already part of the news cycle. So the far leftists that were before Biden sort of tainted the water already. So the people in the independents, the middle, kind of see this and go, wait a minute. Even center-left people kind of go, whoa. This isn't going to work. How are you going to pay for all this? We're already at, what, $23 trillion in debt, and then we're not even talking about the $130 trillion of unfunded liabilities that have to be paid out in the next coming 50, 60 years. So I guess what I can surmise with Mr. Johnson here is that he'd probably still vote Democrat, okay? But he gives praise where praise is due. And I think any sane person in this country, when they wake up in the morning and they look out of their apartment window, their house window, when they go to work or whatever, you have to ask yourself, am I better off now than I was, say, 4 years ago? Yeah, you are. Now, you may try to fight it and say, no, we're not. Economically, yes. But as far as how the country is leaning to, kind of the political strife, it's actually worse. But in the end, you have to ask yourself, are you going to vote left or are you going to vote right? And the bigger question is, do you change horses midstream? Kind of analogy is, once you're in the middle of the stream, do you get off your horse that's already moving across the stream to another horse? You wouldn't. This is just comments from Bob Johnson. It's just interesting that he said that on live TV during an interview, and we'll see in the coming days if he gets if he loses any support from his friends. Because if you look, okay, this is that CNBC article, and the video sort of talks about it. But here's where was it? Okay, yeah, this is from 2018, from Real Clear Politics. So it says, BET founder Bob Johnson to Trump, I applaud you for the 401k auto portability program. So he's already praised him in the past. So this isn't the first time. So again, I give credit to where credit's due for Bob Johnson making a poignant case for Donald Trump. But again, he's not endorsing a candidate. He just says he likes his style because he is a CEO. So we'll leave that there, and we'll see where it goes. I might do an update on this video if he makes any other comments, negative, if you will.